remember turning on the late movie, and I would sit and hold Carolyn and sing to her. And before long, she'd settle down and go back to sleep. I remember that like it was yesterday. I always really liked that.
Yeah.
That she would settle down when I started singing to her. Most people flip out, but
Her date of birth was October 24th, which is our wedding anniversary. So she, all through the years, always let it be known that she was the best wedding present we ever got, anniversary present.
Well, she is, isn't she?
Yeah, well, I don't like to be put on the spot. But yeah,
Well, I think she is.
I think she is. And we noticed that the brown-eyed, brown-haired kids were not eaters. They were picky eaters. Carolyn just plain, she only liked about 3 things. And one of the standing jokes that we have is she didn't even like things that normal kids like to get donuts or cream filled, anything. That was a great treat in our family. I baked things, but we never went out and bought something like that. That was a special treat. And Carolyn didn't like it, and she knew that would seem so strange that she didn't want to tell anyone she didn't like it. So like she took hers and went up to the bathroom and hid it under the bath mat, which is a wonderful place to hide it because it was cream filled. Everybody stood on it. No one had any trouble guessing when it was found who wouldn't like a cream filled donut and would hide it under the bathroom cabinet or mat. And Carolyn had a lot of fears, and I don't know that she particularly likes to be reminded of it, although she is constantly reminded of it by her siblings, that she was afraid of butterflies, and she was afraid to get her hair cut, and she was afraid of Uncle Paul's convertible because she was used to cars that had roofs on, and it scared her when they put the top down. The rest of them thought it was great fun. She was afraid of it. And so in her early life, there were a lot of things that she was afraid of, but she's the only one that sucked her thumb. She sucked her thumb, but she cut her lip severely when she was about 4, and between 4 and 5, and she should have had stitches, and I knew she should have had stitches. But neither her father nor I were brave enough to take her to emergency because the roof would have gone off. So we just said, okay, Lord, heal her, because no one wants to deal with this. Not the doctors, the nurses, or the parents. And the good that turned out of it is it was a kind of open wound, and it hurt her to suck her thumb. So she broke herself of that habit and never had any problem with her teeth. So it's where being afraid came in for a positive effect.
But what do we call that blanket she liked? Her security blanket? She had a security blanket that had kind of a silk, huh?
Yeah.
Kind of a silk
binding
on it, and that was, instead of sucking her thumb, she always grabbed onto that thing. As I remember.
And she was a cheerleader for St. Thomas basketball. They didn't have football.
Right.
She never watched the game. She was never interested in sports. But she was a very good cheerleader.
Yeah.
Because Carolyn has a lot of pep and a lot of expressive qualities. So she's very cute. So she made a good one, although sports didn't interest her at all.
Student too.
She was a good student. She worried about it a lot, and she said that since she was short, she always went to the first row and sat and looked at the teacher and never took her eyes off, tried to get everything that they said. Oh, another memorable thing that happened to Carolyn was because her birthday was toward the end of October, she could have gone either way. The cutoff was November 1st. I believe at that time it was sometime in the fall. I think maybe it was October 31st. We debated for a long time whether to put her in a little bit younger, hold her around a year, but she did fine in kindergarten, and she had done that. So we decided to go ahead and put her in. And we put her in St. Thomas, and she would come home and she would have real terrible marks on her papers. And I knew she was smart. I knew that that couldn't be the problem. So when I talked to the teacher said that she thought Carolyn worried more about what she was wearing to school that day than she worried about whether her work was done. She just didn't seem that academic. And she thought that Carolyn didn't listen to the instruction. It was what they called Montessori theory. And what you do is, I would say, give her instruction on and off through the day. I would say, Carolyn, you go over to the blue chair and touch it, and then go over to the plant and walk around it 3 times, and then come over to the couch and sit down, and then get up. So you give them a series of instructions.
Then come out and do the dinner dishes.
Give her a series of instructions, and she had to remember it all and see if she did it. I put her back in the next year. And the other thing we considered is she was so small. It didn't like she was going to be tower over everybody in her class. She was still one of the smallest kids in the class. She just went in a little older. So it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, she did very well from then on.
Okay, so Carolyn, she would have graduated from high school then in 76.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we figured she was born in 57.
She worked at Tom's Ice Cream Bowl first, and as a waitress, and then she went from there to Elby's, where Paul and Charlie were already working, and so they set the stage for her, which I'm not sure was good or bad. So we tend to call it Quinn's place because Paul, Charlie, Carolyn, and Francie all worked their way through college by working there in the summers and Christmas and different.
Actually,
High
I think
school.
Bob Adams was the biggest influence at Elby's.
Oh no.
So she was a wonderful waitress. She made really
Oh,
good
yeah,
money
She made the bucks.
because she was good at it.
Mm-hmm. And she cared about things too. That makes
Yeah.
a good